If there is a message for us today, I believe it is to learn to live from our heart in love. These short lessons, hopefully, will help to inspire you to live with purpose, love passionately, and inspire others. We are the change agent our world needs. I'm Helen Toews. Step into the river today with me to explore the mysteries of God. They are not hidden from us, but for us to discover. No, I was actually just saying thank you to everybody for coming on at when you can before the meeting, because it is nice to have a few words and see you a little bit when you just see faces in little squares every week. And I just appreciate and sharing a little bit of your life and where you're going. We are having a great response to the creating your own God Squad, and there's still a lot of technical stuff behind the scenes that need to be done, but Gina and I are really looking forward to spending that Saturday on the 12th of November together. We're excuse me. We're totally honoring the fact that we started saying, we'll help people who want to just do an intention group, but maybe by the end of that meeting, you may want to expand or just tweak it a little bit. But we're totally honoring by the time we've gone through that together, you'll be comfortable and confident setting intentions together. We'll be doing some practicing. There'll be some a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll. It's all going to be in there. And we're learning a lot of things as we're going along. So we're not presenting anything as experts, but we have learned and have had some fabulous testimonies along the way. So we're going to share that. So if that's anything that you're interested in, even if you're not in a group, or some people have come and they have groups that are coming on. That's fabulous. That's absolutely fabulous. But if you don't, we're putting everybody in time zones and we're going to work from there. So we want to be as inclusive as we can. So thank you for just getting on with that. Excuse me. Tonight, we are in Canada. I don't know about everybody, but in Canada, actually in North America, we are a couple of days away from Halloween. And you know what? I'm going to pin myself so that makes me speaking. There we go. About 10 years ago now, or maybe more, I created this little booklet called Halloween. It looks backwards on my thing there. It's called Halloween Unmasked. And it's just a little leaflet kind of booklet, about 20 pages, that goes into the history and what Halloween is. The reason I did it was because none of the churches seem to give any understanding or history to what it is. They are busy either having Halloween parties, as the schools were doing, everything, like everybody was involved in it. Some of them named it but did all the same thing. So I said, Lord, this is so unholy for children as part of their life. So tonight, because we are, how many do you have, Maggie, do you have it in the UK, Halloween?
Yeah, absolutely we do, on the 31st of October.
Is it a big thing?
It's everywhere. You go into all the shops and all the decorations are up. Right. So yeah, I would say this year is no more than any other year, but we make a big sometimes we've done light parties ourselves, as a family, just so that we don't celebrate it, because for me it's like the devil's Christmas. I don't know a great deal about it, but
Exactly.
yeah, we don't get involved. Rather do the alternative, something different.
Right. Okay. Well, that's awesome. And who else? Yolande, you guys do in Down Under.
Yeah, and it's been catching on, and now it's become a huge marketing ploy. So it's already, all the pumpkins are up and all this garbage going on.
Yeah.
So I just speak the opposite to it.
Yeah. Sure.
And even all the school children, and it's crazy.
Yeah. So the reason thank you for that. We all seem to be in the same boat here. And so the reason that I'm doing this tonight is probably not going to really rock your world. You probably will know most of the things that I'm sharing. But what I want to do is I want to present this because I've had so many people, first of all, back in the day, they bought this book to share with friends because they didn't know how to explain why they chose not to, because it seemed to have been a runaway train, how this whole thing, it wasn't so big 10 years ago or 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, but it's escalated because now in North America, that this is the second most popular holiday after Christmas. Do you know they spend I think it's $10.6 billion on this holiday is what is spent. And because it's increasingly controversial, but you know what else I'm seeing? It's increasingly not being talked about, and people are just going with it, thinking that this is a healthy thing. I've seen warnings this year about candies that are fentanyl drugs being given out to children. That like Smarties and that, so they're repackaging, they're making it very dangerous for children. And yet with all these things that we're exposed to, back in my day 40 years ago, they started putting pins and things into apples, razor blades, dangerous things for children. And so, and it was hard to break away. So and the other thing is that people don't really know what the root of this whole thing is and how insidious the process of evil coming into our children's lives. So what I've done is this book is super outdated now. And the reason it's outdated in a lot of ways is because we used to pan everything that was mystical or spiritual that was a little off of church culture. And so there were things in it there that I didn't want people to think that, because we understand the mystical, right? But in the context of Halloween and what's happening with the culture today, they don't. It's a bad thing. So if we talked about the mystical in church or ascension, a lot of the things that we share and experience, and even meditation and that kind of thing, it's still a bone of contention. So, but I don't go into that, but that's just part of the reasoning for doing this. So what I've done is I've put tonight's little lesson into a PDF. And everybody that's online, Jerry's got all of your names. So don't worry about taking notes unless you really want to take notes for your own. I am going to send you this PDF so that you can share it. You either just have it for yourself, but if you aren't comfortable with the conversation, or you want a third party, like I'm that person right now, because this is going to go online. And you can just say, why don't you listen to my friend as she explains some of this, and then you make up your own mind. I just wanted to give one more tool for us to really attack something like this if this is an area that's passionate to you. And it just was for so long. And now it's for me, it's another upswing. I don't have children or grandchildren in the ages that it affects, but so many of my friends do. And so many, interestingly enough, are buying into the culture. And really, I feel putting children in danger. So that's the impetus behind this. In Ezekiel 34:23, it says, teach my children, my people, the difference between the holy and the unholy. Cause them to discern between the unclean and the clean. I'm going to go through this PDF, and I'm not going to share everything that is on it. So I'll leave it to you, but I just want you to know, I want you to have it. I will put it online, but I really wanted you to have it because the days are, to the 31st are really on us. We all know too that the scripture, train up a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. Proverbs 22. And I came across a little snippet from, his name is Tom Sanguent, and he's a former high priest of Wicca. And he said, this modern holiday that we call Halloween has its origins in the full moon closest to November 1st, the witches' New Year. It's a time when the spirits, demons, are supposed to be at their peak power and revisiting planet Earth. Halloween is purely and absolutely evil, and there is nothing we ever have or will do that would make it acceptable to the Lord Jesus. Now, that's a former high priest from Wicca, and I thought, wow, that's so good. Now, Halloween is a religious holiday, but it's not Christian, and no matter what spin is put on it, whether it's just for fun, just dress up, and statements of that nature, it's actually a dangerous time, and it can open doors to demonic influence in your home. In ancient times, in countries like Ireland, Scotland, Britain, the Celtic festival of Samhain was observed on October 31st, and it marked the ending of one season and beginning of the next. November 1st began their new year, and I don't go into the church new year, but that was All Saints Day, so there's also the correlation within the churches. And it began the new year, and this was one of the most important calendar festivals of the Celtic calendar, and they celebrated by participating in the occult arts and rituals. Their occult arts and rituals were absolutely over the top because they sacrificed animals and humans on behalf of their culture. For thousands of years, Druid priests conducted this diabolical worship in ceremonies with the sacrifice. And as they were captured, often sacrificed, they believed they were required to do this to please their god, Samhain, and keep the spirits from harming them. Druids believed the souls of the dead were supposed to revisit their homes on this day, and the holiday progressively took on a sinister significance with ghosts, witches, black cats, fairies, and demons being added. Halloween in its present form was not celebrated till the 20th century in North America. How about that, eh? It was when Irish Catholic immigrants introduced a mixture of Roman and Druid ceremony to it. And Halloween ultimately became a secular observance, and customs like pumpkin carving, dressing up in costumes, and going to neighbors for treats became popular. I find it interesting that we tell our children, don't take candy from strangers, or have these rules. And then all of a sudden on this one day, we say, now's the time, just go to everybody and take whatever they're handing out. What are we thinking? Anyway, pumpkin carvings creating jack-o'-lanterns has many different legends. And one belief is it came from the tradition of witches that use a skull with a candle to light the way to coven meetings. And then there's fun stories like Irish, the story of Irish Jack or Stingy Jack. And I'll just tell the story because it's kind of fun. He evidently was a miserable old drunk who liked to play tricks on everyone. One day he tricked the devil into climbing up an apple tree. Once the devil climbed up the apple tree, Stingy Jack hurried, placed crosses around the trunk of the tree, and the devil was unable to come down the tree. Stingy Jack made the devil promise him not to take his soul when he died. Once the devil promised not to take his soul, Stingy Jack removed the crosses and let the devil down. Legend has it that when Jack died, he went to the pearly gates of heaven, and he was told by St. Peter that he was too mean and too cruel, and he was not allowed to enter. He went down to hell, and the devil kept his promise and would not allow him to enter hell either. Now Jack had nowhere to go but to wander about in the darkness, trapped between heaven and hell, and he asked the devil how he could leave, as there was no light. The devil tossed him an ember from the flames of hell to help him light his way, and Jack placed an ember in a hollowed out stolen turnip, which he carried around with him. From that day onward, Jack roamed the earth without a resting place, lighting his way as he went with his, you guessed it, jack-o'-lantern. Now, those are maybe fun little stories. I think we have much better ones to share with kids than that one. Pumpkin carving became a little bit more sinister. And what we don't realize that every time we engage in that, it can be a lot of fun, but it also has its root in these customs. And on All Hallows Eve, as it's called, the Irish hollowed out the turnips and rutabagas and gourds, and they placed lights in them to keep evil spirits away. In the 1800s, a couple of waves of Irish immigrants came. It sounds like I'm attacking the Irish. I so love the Irish, and I'm not. This is just history till it gets revised. The Irish immigrants quickly discovered that pumpkins were bigger and easier to carve, so they used pumpkins for lanterns. World Book Encyclopedia says, the apparently harmless lighted pumpkin face of the jack-o'-lantern is an ancient symbol of a damned soul. Incredibly, the customs of celebrating actually grew while human and animals were sacrificed in agony. The Druids and their followers would dress up in costumes made of animal skins and heads, and they would dance, chant, and jump through flames in their worship with hope of warding off evil spirits. To obtain these sacrifices, Druid priests would go from house to house asking for donations for their sacrifices. The original trick or treat, right? Dressing up, going door to door. And what about black cats? Well, they were actually represented shape shifters. And I won't go into all of these different things, but Halloween has and continues to become, I'm going to say that again, Halloween has and continues to become a crossover involvement where innocent games, dress up and carving pumpkins can lead to serious entanglement with real witches, neo-pagans, new agers, and other occultists. And they are planting themselves in these parties and these situations. We need to be aware. And we're learning what you give your attention to, you enable, right? So one of the common pastime at parties is the use of a Ouija board, which is intended to use spirits to get answers or questions to their answers. You know how it works. They ask a question and they move this thing around on the board. This can lead to serious consequences. And the movie The Exorcist is actually a case study of a possession that is a result of this game. Party games with crystal balls, tarot cards, divining mediums, and horoscopes are all open doors. Entries to the demonic activity, and these are popular games that folks play. Now, whether a person participates innocently or with purpose, demons have a great interest in Halloween. These games also offer legal entry for demonic opportunities to control and influence people. This open door to the occult can introduce forces into people's lives that they're not equipped to combat. And the big deception is to think that it's harmless. There's genuine power in the occult, hidden practices, and ignorance is not its safety valve. You know, it's just like you can believe there's gravity or not. You can't see it. And if you don't believe it and jump off of a cliff, you can be as hurt as if you understood that gravity exists. So either way, it's the same way with occult practices. Whether you believe it or not, they're there. And other more obvious types of occult involvement, like mediums, channeling, clairvoyants, psychics, diviners, gurus, shamans, etc., all invite the imagination of the participants to embrace evil. It's a serious study of biblical demonology will reveal Satan as the power behind the occult. Occult simply means, right, what's hidden. It's not even an oogie kind of word. Occult just means behind things that are hidden. And playing with witchcraft, neocromancy, channeling, horoscopes, even in game format, the word of God makes clear are an abomination to the Lord. What does the Bible say? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, and because you have rejected knowledge, I will also reject you. You shall be no priest to me, because you have forgotten the law of your Lord, of your God. I will forget your children. And what law had the people forgotten? Well, in Deuteronomy, it says, when you come into the land with the Lord thy God giveth thee, you shall not learn to go after or to imitate the abominations of these nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that makes his son or daughter pass through the fire, or uses divination, observer of times, or an enchanter or witch, or a charmer, a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancy. For all those do these things are an abomination unto the Lord, and because these abominations, the Lord God both drive them out the abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out before thee. And on the document, I've broken down all those things just to give you a definition, but I won't go by them right now. In Jeremiah, it says, learn not the way of the heathen, and don't be dismayed at the signs of heaven, for heathen are dismayed at them. 1 Corinthians says, I do not want you to become sharers in demons. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons, and you cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons. Ephesians 4:7, don't give the devil an opportunity. Celebrating Halloween is participating in the occult practices of paganism. When we have understanding of the truth, we also have a responsibility to walk in it. And there is a spiritual war over this celebration. Imagine that this celebration is spending $10.6 billion in just one country to have this. Imagine $10.6 billion. And it's becoming a close tie to Christmas. Every Halloween, many thousands, animals, even people, are sacrificed in satanic rituals worldwide. And we don't think about that when we see the cute little people go door to door, that this is a worldwide situation. Halloween is a prime recruiting time for witches and Satanists. They're often after the children. Impressionable young minds are children. Is it any shock that people have testified when they introduce the occult at a Halloween party? Whoa. Halloween is one of the human traditions that cloud biblical teachings and keep people in the dark. It's not a harmless holiday. This trick is no treat. It's Satan's MO, method of operation, to steal, kill, and destroy. Adolf Hitler said, those who have the youth have the future. And this holiday is targeted at our youth. In our home, I wrote my personal testimony here. This was over now 45 years ago, so that's a little bit of time has passed, but the passion for drawing a line in the sand hasn't. And we had 4 children under 5 years old at one time. And as they grew, we got sucked into the culture of Halloween, and it was fun. I liked to sew, made fabulous costumes, and they were great. My children's father is a dentist, so we gave out toothbrushes and toothpaste. We, instead of we tried to sanctify it. We tried to sanitize it, and then we'd give out tracts, right? Just so people would know why we weren't participating. All the time we're participating. And so then we decided, no, we'll just take it. We're saying no. So you sit 4 little children down and you tell them and explain to them. Well, 4 children around a table can be intimidating. There were a few tears, but by the time we got through that first year with them, everything was fine. But it helped that we also, for our family, we made that night, and I remember this is 45 years ago, to lock up the house, turn the lights off, and we went out. We took the children to a movie, or we'd go bowling, went out for pizza. It was actually a fun time. And we let them, even though their father was a dentist, we let them buy whatever they wanted in a candy store. Like, seriously, we didn't say, the volume that they do now, but we allowed them to make the choice for the largest chocolate bars or bag of Smarties, whatever they wanted. And because we really wanted to treat them and bless them, because they were blessing us by cooperating with not fitting in with their society at the time. As parents, it can be confusing how to deal with the pressures, and creating constructive alternatives can be challenging. Understanding what the Word of God says is our first and most important step in taking a stand on this subject. We need a strong standard raised. Even though many churches will not address the occult, know that God takes it very seriously. Ephesians 5:11 says, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, rather expose them. In 1 Timothy 4, it says, now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron. If you know something is wrong and you continue to do it, there's still that niggling in you, isn't there? There's still that your conscience, let your conscience be your guide. Your conscience is aware, and you still have that gut feeling something's wrong. If you keep ignoring that, this is what it means by having your conscience seared, because you'll come up to that same place over and over, and it won't mean anything to you. When you have a seared conscience, it's very difficult to come back from that. Not impossible. Nothing's impossible with God. And in 3 John 11, it says, beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. He who does good is of God, but he who does evil has not seen God. So applying the scriptures mean we have a responsibility to share with our children in a way that they understand the reasons that we take a stand that we do. It's so part of my reason for sharing this and giving you the tools and giving you the tools that you can share is so that if you're uncertain, or if you need to really think it through for yourself, then it's important that you do understand what we cannot teach what we don't understand. And we don't want to teach something that doesn't come out of conviction, right? From our heart, not just our head, and certainly not because somebody else is telling you to do it. So the following might help you answer some questions or respond to pleas from your young people. There are some things you may hear, some personal responses and rationale that have helped our children to understand and get through these times when we've communicated with them. Things like this. People will say, there's no harm in dressing up. Well, actually, that's only partially right. There is no harm in dressing up. There's no harm in pretending. There's no harm in using your imagination if it's sanctified to the Lord. The word sanctify means it's set apart for a purpose. Do you know, my brother was working in Hollywood for a while. And we talked about this. This is again, many, many years ago. And he said, you would be surprised the number of people that take on a role that they have been, that they're doing, a role that they're doing in a film. If that role is evil, like that evil person, it is not unusual for that person to begin to take on the characteristics of that thing that they are playing. They're just dressing up and pretending. But the spirit of the thing that they are actually dressing up to portray comes in them, and they can become possessed, certainly obsessed for the time that they're in that role. In this case, when we talk about Halloween, dressing up says that you're setting yourself aside for a purpose, giving your attention to it, right? And participating in something that's not God's will and something he really can't bless. So good or evil, when the intention of the action is to celebrate something not sanctified, we move away from his blessing and protection. There's even a real spirit realm of Satan's servants that see what is being celebrated, and they're happy to be part of your activities. We cannot bless what God has cursed. For instance, when a child dresses up as a ghost, the child actually represents a demon spirit. Ghosts are not disembodied dead people who are roaming around the earth friendly and trying to search for their souls, nor are they people as portrayed in the movie Ghost. They're apparitions and demonic in nature. And it doesn't matter how cute you dress that little girl up, as it's still a witch's costume. You'll see it when you get this. When a person participates with darkness, they give place to the spirits of the realm to have a place in their own lives. And we say it over and over again, what you give your attention to, you participate, you enable. So introducing the occult by way of games, artifacts, and activities are actual open doors into your home and an invitation. It's not unusual for nightmares to cease, people's behavior to change, atmospheres to become peaceful when objects like amulets, demonic symbols, new age music, books, statues of gods are cleaned out of the house. And the persons involved have repented from agreeing with the enemy in those areas and asking the Lord to come into their lives. You clean out your house, it changes. So why wouldn't we understand that when you bring it in the ways that we're describing tonight, that it would be the opposite effect? The movie The Exorcist was written from an actual case study of a child, a young boy who was playing with a Ouija board that became demonically possessed. It's not a game. The demonic world is real, and it looks for people to participate with them. The playing up for Halloween can be an innocent entry to the child's future choices. Parties are often the place. I really encourage you to make sure that you know where your young people are and what they're going to. Take your stand against devil schemes. Ephesians 6:11-18. Romans 13:12. Put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. And as parents, we need to make sure that these games are not a part of any children's party celebrations in homes, as well as the classrooms, whether it is Halloween or other gatherings. My youngest daughter in I think it was grade 3. It was during a Halloween time at their school. I was totally unaware that any of it was going on. And she knew better, and I was glad she came home. But they were playing games that started to spook them out. And kids were levitating in the playground in some of these games that they were playing. And when she came home, we were able to, thank God, she told me what was going on, and I could address it with her and with her brothers and sister, but then go to the school and make them aware. Even the school was not aware of what was going on in the playground. And it was a lot easier to talk about back in the day. The occult for just fun activities are not acceptable, and these doors opened the spirit realm for both good and evil. Now, many Christians will tell you that Halloween can be sanctified and redeemed to make it good. It actually has no redemptive qualities. Evil itself is disguised as good, harmless, but the consequences are the same as when Adam and Eve sinned. Now, a small child does not see the future ramification of their innocent actions in play. If a parent endorses it, then when they are young, the child has a harder time seeing the truth when they're older. You know, we would not knowingly allow young children to participate in occult activities yet. We position them to their future choices, but not giving them understanding, and most importantly, the courage to stand against evil when they're young. I believe that's our responsibility. It's interesting that our cultural practices like Halloween that are equally effective way to desensitize thinking and beliefs, all because our children are given over to it as play. Now, our North American culture has an incredible ability to beautify something ugly, to make it fun and to give it a makeover to fit our paradigms. One of the things this is just personal. I know there are a lot of opinions, but I think Harry Potter is a prime example of witchcraft repackaged to get an entire generation hooked on the occult. The story began seemingly innocent, but then it became more and more occult, and there was no longer hiding the spells and the intentions of witchcraft as the series went along. That even the author today says the spells and the witchcraft that is included in those books are actually real spells and real occult teachings. Children and parents all argued intensely to the innocence of this book. Many people have been hoodwinked into thinking this work of fiction is completely harmless. The series, on a closer look, is doing great harm. Steeped in the occult, it also portrays parents and authority figures as ignorant, intolerant, and uninformed. Shapeshifters, wizardry, spells, and the like teach that by natural means we become supernatural. Instead of a generation being offered truth, the supernatural format of this series is actually steering the true prophetic gifts of children and their potential away from God. The motto of the school that they went to, the motto is never tickle a sleeping dragon. And it was a sleeping dragon, and it has been given life of its own to affect this generation of children as well as to deceive adults. I know the author is an incredible writer, an absolutely outstanding writer. And it's very hard to pull people away when it's so good. Current research says 89% of our children watch witchcraft on TV, and I've left this in the document. That's from 12 years ago. I'm going to say now that I didn't go look it up, but I believe 100% of our children watch witchcraft on TV. It's even in commercials. It's in everything, absolutely everything. The Twilight series, it's still on. I had the television on this afternoon. There's a new vampire in love thing coming or on. This cannot possibly be Christian entertainment. It's shocking how many are justifying this truly sick and evil concept, calling it a love story and endorsing it as good reading. Karen Rosenthal, the children's department manager for R.J. Julia Booksellers, said this: I'm not usually a vampire book reader, but I haven't read a book in a long time that has as much sexual tension and creepy terror throughout it as Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. The main character is extremely compelling. The protagonist is so consumed with her crush on him, she blocks everything else. And the fact that he's a vampire adds a whole other level. It's also the perfect crossover book. It will appeal to kids who read fantasy and darker books, but it also kids who like more realistic fiction, like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and all those kids who read Gossip Girl. It's a riveting action book, but thoughtful as well. Sometimes teen books can be plot-driven, and the quality of the writing goes out the window, but this one has both. Wow. The concept of vampires in the past would have caused fear in people. Recently, vampires have been turned into a hero, not a villainous, cruel predator. And vampires by legend suck blood from their victims to gain life. In stark comparison, Jesus gave his blood for us that we would live in him. And he died on a stake to give us eternal life. The precision and delicacy of Meyer's writing lifts this wonderful novel beyond the limitations of the horror genre to a place among the best young adult fiction. Unreal, unreal. But look through your TV guide. It's absolutely staggering. Look through it. The movies have glorified, made witches at one time ugly to be now the proverbial girl next door. Makeovers like Sabrina, Teenage Witch, Buffy, Vampire Slayer, Bewitched, etc., etc. Alien, Invasion, Walking Dead. That's just Sunday night. This is crazy. And recently, Horrified. This is when I wrote this little booklet 12 years ago, and I have seen it over and over again since in absolutely magnified ways. I saw daytime advertising a decade ago that was glorifying and introducing incubus and succubus, which are on two different shows. Incubus and succubus are demons. This is real. This is true. This is. If you don't know, I'm going to suggest you research it if you're interested. They're demons who have sexual powers, and watching them via our televisions is a gateway to our homes for both of these to operate. One of these demons is assigned to women, the other to men. And most parents don't see what their children are watching. These programs are a seductive entry to your child's mind and will program their choices to life decisions. They are not harmless entertainment. Don't overlook board games, card collections, role-playing, video games. We're in a culture now, all this is gone. No more is it just obvious, Dungeons and Dragons. That's a good clue. Now we've got, and we've got the cute little things like the Binding of Isaac or Pokemon. I have a picture on this that I will, that's on your PDF that you're going to get tonight. He's cute. Pokemon, Pocket Monster. That doesn't sound too bad. And he's cute as the dickens. Wow. And I don't know if you know about Binding Isaac, but again, it's a story. It's the storyline behind it is Isaac's mother was a religious woman. She became mentally ill and started hearing voices. She believed it was God speaking to her. In an attempt to cleanse her innocent son of his sins, she stripped away his toys, clothes, and confined him to his bedroom. But the voice insisted that was not enough. She must sacrifice her son in order to prove her love for him. Wow, this is a game. This is a game. Isaac manages to escape to the house's previously hidden basement, which is infested with horrible creatures, shadowy things. But in order for Isaac to truly escape this nightmare and regain his happiness, he must confront his mother once and for all. Are you kidding me? This is a game. This is for children. This is the other one, and I'm going to leave it for you to read, is UGO. It's in the advertising, an exciting universe based on a card game played with monsters, spells, and traps. The Yu-Gi-Oh franchise includes manga, series, television, and several video games. This is just for your information. So what is the difference between the evil and the good, right? Where do we put our imagination in here? And how do we help children? Because I actually see a plumb line between good and evil is very clear. Books like Lord of the Rings, Narnia series are two good examples of sanctified imaginations. These stories are wonderfully imaginative. They're strange creatures at all, in there. But good and evil are not confused. Good is good and evil is evil. I think that's one of the keys that our children have to understand. Problems arise for children's discernment when evil is portrayed as good, like in Harry Potter. And I'm not picking on these. I'm just using them as example because I can understand the quality of these works and how they have really trapped the generations. But it's important that we know. And what does this have to do with Halloween? Have I lost the plot? Well, check the streets at Halloween. There's a good bet you'll see children choosing costumes that celebrate the dark sides of these genres that I've already touched on a few of them. And sadly, our movies and televisions are way ahead of us in so many areas, like The Matrix, Star Trek, Star Wars, Inception, Lucy, Avatar, goes on and on and on. They are actually prophesying to this generation. And as good as they are, and I love watching these kind of movies that, like The Matrix, right? It shows visually the things that we're learning about, and you go, golly, who are we learning from? We're learning from them, they're learning from us. But all of these movies, televisions are so influential. In them, we see time traveling, appearing, disappearing, remote viewing, all of these things. And I think they're really great. I think it's great to see them. But I challenge us to read the Bible and to see that Jesus walked through walls. He operated miracles. He turned one substance into another, performed many signs. He's our template. He's our plumb line. He's our example. He was transfigured. He made contact with people in other dimensions. He saw into the unseen world. He had alien as well as angelic encounters. He traveled outside of time and space. He defied natural laws. Wow, best of all, we can see that he saw Father and spoke to him. This is what we need to imagine. This is what our kids need to imagine, the real deal. Because all of this stuff that is attracting them, that's pulling them in, is actually real. But it's a counterfeit to the righteous real. And that has to be where we position ourselves and where we pull this whole generation back into. One of the things that we will do when we pull them back into it is we'll get them excited about the real deal. And if we can model it, if we can help them, if we can help them in the modalities of prayer, understanding how we are so wonderfully and fearfully made, that there is actual God in us, there's strength in us, that nothing is impossible, that they can make their own mind movies. They can learn how to do all the things that Christ did. They just have to see. They just have to believe and see it. And more, I think we need to be modeling it. Personally, I think it's far more exciting to live this supernaturally natural life than it is to watch it with those who are pretending. So what if we spent the time and finances to train our children to the real mystical, godly principles? What about teaching our children how to ascend, how to sanctify their imagination and access the dimensions into Psalm 23? The things that we're learning, you know what, kids lap it up. They love it. Do you know the other thing that I've learned? I had the privilege of mentoring a young family because they lived up north in Canada for a short period of time. They were homeschooled and their parents were very very intent on making sure that their children were learning the things that we're talking about now. And it was easier for me to go on a Zoom with them and share. Those children, there were 5 of them, those children did not need a lot of explaining. I just needed to share what it is that we were doing and engage with them. And all of them, from the youngest to I think the youngest was 6, the oldest was 16. They were amazing. They got it. They understood. Kids, just like they get trapped in this Halloween and all this kind of stuff, they understand when you bring them into the righteous real. And they didn't need a whole lecture into hearing God or seeing. They already knew they could. Because he's in us. God's in us. So we can help and train these children up in the same way that we're learning ourselves. Don't back down from it if you have the opportunity. Just trust God in them and you'll be absolutely excited. We began with Halloween being a focus, and you may think I've sidetracked, but it's difficult to separate these subjects because one feeds into the other. And this is just a brief snapshot of some of the programs and films and toys and games. These areas actually are on task with the subject of Halloween. So what I want to say is, test everything. 1 Thessalonians, hold on to what's good and avoid all kind of evil. Keep yourself from being polluted by the world. James 1:27. Romans 12:9. Abhor what's evil, cling to what's good. Peter Lance, the former member of an occult order of the Golden Dawn, it's called, said, video games producers are getting smarter. They lead you to sites where you can be instructed by a real life occultist if you want to talk hardcore people. There's more here, but I'm going to be sending it to you. Think about what you can do. Harvest festivals, some organizations, churches are doing. They make a fun night for kids. They still do the dress up. They insist on a certain style of costumes rather than going evil. There are a lot of ways that we can help our children to see what is right and what is wrong. If you go to the schools, you go to your communities or your churches, be prepared to know what it is you know and share it with grace, and then be prepared to be part of the volunteers to make a difference, right? Be the change agent and help the others to do the same. Jay Youngin, who wrote A Time of Departing, he said, Satan is not simply trying to draw people to the dark side of a good versus evil conflict. Actually, he's trying to eradicate the gap between himself and God, between good and evil altogether. My personal choice is to make Halloween a time to spend with your family and friends. Maybe take a time that make it a time that would be enjoyable for everyone. Make something fun, like we were talking about before. It worked for our family, and it totally pulled our family into a place with each other, but also influenced a school, influenced a neighborhood by doing that. The most important thing is to make sure young people are reinforced in the scriptures so they know what God says about the activities. And I started with this. Teach my people to distinguish between the clean and the unclean. Ultimately, we can teach our children that they can put on the armor of light, put on Christ. Now, that's dress up, right? And at the end of this article, I just wrote out a little letter and a prayer. Dear friend, please know this teaching was not with any intent to bring condemnation of any kind. We all have free will in our choices. However, if you're reading this and feel convicted that you have given place to the enemy by participating in this celebration, we serve a gracious and merciful God. He's not looking for ways to punish us. Our sin was taken once and for all on the cross. Run into his arms of love. Listen as he reveals his heart to you. And please pray. Father, I ask your forgiveness for my ignorance and not understanding the seriousness of celebrating and participating in Halloween. Today, I respond to your word and ask for you to reverse the curse that might be operating over my family because of our involvement. I also ask you to close any door that's open to the enemy's tactics in our home. I declare today, like Joshua said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Help us to be strong and use wisdom when sharing our stand with our children, family, friends, and our neighbors. Help us to be people who will not compromise your word, standing for the truth of the gospel, and help us to model what you desire for us as Christians in this day and hour. Thank you for your faithfulness and to keep us in your care. And I pray in the name of Jesus. So that is going through the PDF that you're all going. I'm going to send to all of you when we're finished here tonight. One of the reasons that I wanted to give you this information, if you needed it, I'm sure you know this and so much more. I was listening to John F. Kennedy Jr. as he's talking about his on one of his podcasts, and he was asked whether in his family, there were 11 children in his family, and he has taken a stand on the vaccine situation and all that, as you probably know, for vaccines for children. Anyway, he was really interesting to listen to, because some of his family was coming against him. They were taking totally the opposite stand from him, and his answer was really good. He said, in my family, at dinner time, we were always encouraged to debate. And his dad, who was Robert Kennedy, he would bring in things to talk about that would challenge the kids at the table. And he said, our dinner times were quite something, because there'd be anger, there'd be passion, there'd be frustration, there'd be everything. And he said it would be very loud. But he said, what we learned was you can have your own opinion, and you are allowed to share those opinions. And he said it was a growing and a learning. And he said, so today, when my family comes against me, and they write articles and they're in the news and all the rest of them, it's an influential family. He said, we're still friends, because we learned as children that we're allowed to have our free speech. We're allowed to have our opinions. We're allowed to voice them. And I thought, I love that. I absolutely love that, because these are times that we're in now that require that kind of debate around the tables, rather than being mad at everybody or people walking off. So I encourage you to throw this subject in at a table with your children, or even if they're adult children, and see where people stand, and share some of the things that